Hey guys, this is MHMMA Show with your host Travis Single. We have a special guest right here who's actually gracious enough to have him do the interview at his home. We got Jason the Dragon Lee.
How's it going, guys?
We have him fighting Ed Banks at 185-pound division tomorrow night at the Denver Western Complex for Fight to Win's Professionals card. Now, Jason, obviously you're the amateur Rocky Mountain Bad Boys as well as the Fight to Win amateur champion. Do you know much about your opponent Ed Banks at all? Or?
Not a lot in the fact that there wasn't a lot of tape on him. I believe he pulled all that offline, probably keeps it pretty close to home. But I was able to search out a couple guys, one being my coach and mentor, Cody Donovan, as well as Brandon Thatch, that have worked a little bit with Ed in the past. So they were able to emulate a little bit and give me a little bit of insight on what I should be expecting, hopefully. So.
Nice. As far as your strengths as far as Ed and yourself, what do you think your strengths as far as yourself and for Ed?
My strength, I come from a bodybuilding background as well, so I was always one of those guys for personal training bodybuilding that I preferred to be kind of overall, well-built rather than just having that one area that I really excelled in.
Yeah.
And I kind of take the same approach to mixed martial arts. I would prefer to be a well-rounded, molding fighter that is progressing in every area rather than have one strength and weak in other areas. Yeah. So for me, I feel like Team Grudge and Trevor Whitman and the guys over there are definitely cultivated me into a very well-rounded mixed martial artist. I'm definitely looking forward to standing and trading a little bit with Ed, seeing how my hands are holding up these days. But, obviously I'm very strong on the ground. My wrestling background and pedigree is very strong, and, I'm looking forward to, probably a little ground and pound as well.
Yeah. And of course, when I had the radio show with Shelly, I had you in when we visited Grudge for the radio show. Tell us, some of the people that may not know about you, tell us about how you started into the sport and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I got my start with Nate Marquardt's gym, High Altitude Martial Arts in Aurora, Colorado. Was nice enough and lucky enough to meet Cody Donovan very early on in that experience, and he kind of took me under his wing and showed me the way that things are supposed to go, and I was proud enough to say I'm one of those 1%ers that was able to make it over the hump and really continue on. So outside of that, though, I was really just a guy that came from a wrestling background, street fighting, unfortunately, kind of grew up as a knucklehead. But, I was one of those guys sitting watching Chuck in his heyday, and he said, I could do this. And I just knew that, obviously, with it being more of a professional sport here, that you need to find a gym that's going to be able to cultivate you, and work you through some of those harder points. That's what I did. I went out and was lucky enough to find Nate's gym. Yeah,
exactly. Now, were you raised here in Colorado, or were you raised somewhere else?
I was born and raised in just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. I like to say that I'm a Southie kid. My dad was from Boston. Moved out here when I was 14, 15 years old. Like I said, grew up with a really troubled past, lost my brother real early on in life, so it moved me out to Colorado for a little bit of a different structure. And I've been here ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a great thing to hear, especially, as far as kind of changing the mood and things and taking it into a positive way, where you see so many people with troubled past that kind of go down the wrong path. So it's nice to, have a connection with other people to try to get your life into the,
Absolutely is, absolutely is. And, I came from a point in my life where they had told me that, if I was ever in a fist fight again, I might be put under the jail. Type of thing. And, coming out of that experience, I had a son there shortly after, and totally rechanged my focus in life. I'm still as focused and motivated as I was then. It's just now focused on the positive of raising my son, being the best athlete, and, just really maintaining that peak performance kind of lifestyle.
Yeah. Now, of course, you said that you were with High Altitude with Nate Marquardt. Obviously, Nate's fighting this Saturday night in Germany. Technically, I guess it's probably like Germany in morning or in the afternoon.
Right, exactly.
So you know how that goes, airing live on Spike TV for free. So it'll be a great time. What's your prediction against Yushin Okami?
Well, I tell you, I think that Yushin's an extremely tough opponent. He's definitely, one of the few Japanese guys you're going to see with that type of a build and pedigree.
Yeah.
But I feel that Nate is, I will say this, Nate is probably one of the few guys that I have at Grudge. I haven't spent a lot of time training with him, but just to be able to be in the room, watch a guy like that, at that skill set, that mindset, that level, he teaches me daily without even knowing it. So while I feel like it's going to be a very good opportunity, they're both in title contention at this point. I feel that Nate is going to be able to take that fight, whether it be in the distance or whether it be in the short term. I definitely feel like Nate's experience is going to shine through.
Yeah, and obviously with Yushin Okami's last fight against Mark Munoz, is kind of really well known as a wrestler. He's not really good on the stand-up. I think Okami kind of established that from the very beginning.
Right.
And obviously Nate's great, pretty much on the ground, but definitely standing, especially with knees and everything. What he did to Damian Maia was just groundbreaking, nonetheless. So any prediction? You got knockout, submission? What do you think?
I tell you what, I never call a mixed martial arts fight. I always say everybody has a game plan going in, but the game plan is usually not to have too much of a game plan. It's just to kind of be able to be as well rounded as possible. I foresee Nate taking this one in the knockout.
Oh, nice. Okay. Now, of course, there's rumors going around that February it'll be Shogun Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort, possibly on Super Bowl Sunday. So, where do you see that playing out? Do you think Belfort could come back from an injury and finally maybe be able to capture the belt? Because it's been basically a challenge or a title fight that's been in the making for almost a full year. So
absolutely, and I definitely think that Vitor Belfort has the ability. I think the biggest thing playing in Vitor's game right now is probably going to be his mental game.
Yeah.
Coming off of an injury, he's been in contention, and he's always been one of those guys that's kind of in the wake over there, seeing what else is going on. And we all know he's been around mixed martial arts for a very long time.
Yeah.
Could be a make or break, but kind of coming back to Nate, I feel regardless of how that fight goes, Nate has had that taste in his mouth. He's been so close, he can definitely taste it. And I think that regardless of how the outcome of that fight comes, Nate is probably happy to face either of those gentlemen for sure.
Yeah, and Nate Marquardt, he did the basically kind of like the UFC will have guys usually the day before the weigh-ins. They'll do like an interview process with the fan club and stuff. And obviously he was at UFC and versus card right before the weigh-ins. Where Brendan Schaub was on the card, and he basically, you could tell in his face, all the fans that were in attendance, that his mind wasn't right with Chael Sonnen, and he's definitely ready to go. Obviously, that set with Paul Harris, so I think that's a great game plan to go with. Now, as far as Nate goes, do you think? As far as with the whole Chael Sonnen thing, do you think that Chael Sonnen, is there any possibility that he could have maybe not been tested from that, and he could have been, did the same stuff that he did with Anderson Silva? Or what's your whole take on the whole Chael Sonnen?
I mean, performance-enhancing drugs, like I said, I come from a bodybuilding background where, a lot of people say, yes, I'm taking it. A lot of people say, no, I don't, and they absolutely live by that. And for me personally, coming into an athletic sport where it's man on man, my outlook is performance-enhancing drugs that just don't have any place. This is it's a crutch, if you will. And I've seen guys in my amateur career that are taking performance-enhancing drugs, and my number one question is always, what are you going to do when they take the crutch away? So, I feel for Chael Sonnen. Like I said, I choose probably not to speak on whether or not I think he did or didn't. I feel for him. It's just a heavy burden to carry. And I hope the best for him. I hope that he can make it through regardless of suspension or not, or however that works out for him. Come back strong. I believe he's one of the best wrestlers around, and while he's probably got some stand-up stuff to work on, he's one hell of a tough guy. He may not be the most dynamic guy to watch, but he definitely comes to put on the show. There's no quitting that guy.
Yeah, and as far as safety goes, because I know a lot of people were on my Facebook page saying that they thought it was a safety issue with him being on or even if he was, if it wasn't performance enhancing drugs. Do you think that's a key to safety, especially when you say that you had guys that were at an amateur level were taking it? Do you ever think that maybe this is a bad safety risk because he might have more power to knock you out and then can take one shot, or does it make a difference?
That was one of the articles I read recently from Nate where they had asked him those specific questions, and to be very honest with you, I think mentally it might provide that crutch, but at the same time, I think it provides a hindrance for you, because if you go in feeling that you have performance-enhancing drugs on your shoulder to give you that extra 5%, well, when you go down and that man's still on your back, pounding you out, you got to think, well, geez, what do I do now? Whereas if you're not on any performance-enhancing drugs and you're able to do this completely naturally, it comes from the heart, and there's no quit in that heart, hopefully, when you're at that type of a level. So while I see it could be, a help going in, it could also fall to be a quick hindrance as well if the fight doesn't go your way. We saw Chael. He never stopped during that fight. He never stopped working with Anderson. Unfortunately, he got caught in the last couple seconds. Made for a very dynamic fight. I think that made the night. And for me, Anderson is one of those guys that I love to watch perform. He's doing so well that you almost want to root for the other guy just to kind of see what happens. But Like I said, it could go either way with the performance-enhancing drugs.
And of course, you're really humble, just like all the grudge guys and stuff in Wheat Ridge and stuff with Trevor. Pretty much everybody, even Amal Easton and stuff. You guys are real humble. You don't really talk crap. Even like when Rashad was going with Rampage, it was all just like a joke and stuff like that. Nothing real nasty. You seen Chelson and make some comments that probably weren't that smart of a deal. You guys just stick with just being kind to people and stuff like that. Don't kind of go over the border with things, or what do you take on that?
The way I looked at it is Chell was just talking too much, but I understand that Chell's a politician, and they talk too much. Hey, we're all proud to vote and get out there and represent our country the best we can, but that man is a politician through and through. Even if he wasn't a politician, the way he speaks, he should be a politician. So kind of expecting some of that little talk back and forth, the camaraderie, if you will, but I think, to be honest with you, he just overdid it a little bit. Because by the time that fight came, I was like, I just want to see this guy get his butt whooped, because it was just too much of this, Now, granted, he did go out there. They put on a great show. So, again, it just kind of goes back to that snowball effect of where does the performance-enhancing drug come into play, and how does that, it just kind of snowballs, makes it that much more complicated to sort through.
Well, Vanderlei Silva kind of ripped him, too. And I don't know if you've seen the clip on YouTube where they're basically in the car going to the state capitol in Texas, and Vanderlei said, you can talk all the crap you want and everything, but don't disrespect my country, because you're basically trashing a lot of people that you're not even fighting. So,
exactly.
So I kind of like that aspect of it too. So
absolutely.
Well, Jason, I appreciate all the time. Any of the sponsors you'd like to thank?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to give a big shout out to Ugly Knucks Clothing. You can check them out at uglyknucks.com. Access Performance is my muscle activation therapist, and the machine wouldn't keep running without those guys, that's for sure. I just want to say thanks to my friends and family, and if there's one thing that I can point out that I'm going to really impress in this fight, guys, stop bullying, okay? There's a lot of bullying going on these days, and I can tell you, I was a victim of bullying myself. It's something I don't think anybody should have to stand for. So if you can do anything, 1%, 5%, to change the way that the tide of things are going, help people get out there and stop bullying, please.
Yeah, thanks very much for the message. Obviously, kids these days, whether or not it's about their sexuality, race, wherever, it's getting a little bit past the point where people are taking advantage of it. And it's great to see, great fighters like you that's representing the state of Colorado, and other fighters kind of getting into the awareness of it. So
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.